Hey React developers, today I'm going to show you the power of useMemo hook and how it can help us to optimize our code. So in this function, I have added a loop of 1000, so it will give us an illusion that this function is expensive with respect to performance. So now what is happening that if this component re-renders, if the count increases or if this render increases, this component will re-render and this function will be recalculated as well. Okay, now let's see that in action. So here I have my increment button, and if I click it, so that loop will run because of this function, because this function get executed. Now if I clicked it twice or thrice, every time that component will re-render and that function will be executed again and again, and that should be because every time the count is changed, so we need a new result from that function. But what if I click this render button? You still see that component re-render and that function executed too. It should not be because the count is same, but when every time I click this render button, this component re-renders and the count is same, but that function executed too. Now how to stop it? So now I have used a use memo hook here. So what use memo will do, use memo will remember the count variable and the answer of this function against that count variable. So it will not call this function if the count variable remains the same across the render. So now let's see that in action. So it will be more clarified. Now if you can see here, if I click this increment button, so it calls that function. Okay, every time when I click that increment button, the count variable changes, and due to which that use memo hook will call that function. But what if I click this render button? You can see that the render is being updated, so it means that this component is being re-rendered, but here you can't see any further loop, just because the use memo is not calling this function again, just because the count variable remains the same. So what it will do, it will gives the answer from the previous render. Now one thing to remember here is that this function should be pure, which means that this function should not rely on any outer source. Like this function should not call an API, because it might be possible that in API call that that count variable remains the same but the answer is changed. So in that case we have to call that function every time. So you can't use memo there, it will give you some bugs. So remember that this function should be pure. So I hope you understand the concept of use memo and why it is very necessary for us to use it in our component. Stay tuned to get more of these topics. Please like, share, subscribe if you love this video. Thank you.